everyone, it's Sevi. Along with version 2.7 releasing is the new event Perilous Trails, from which you can acquire the event bow Fading Twilight from the rewards. In this video, I'm going to discuss how the Fading Twilight would fare on different bow characters in the game, of course including Spy X Genshin mommy Yelan. After this video, hopefully you'll have a good idea of which character you'll give this bow to, if any. First, let's look at the bow itself. The Fading Twilight at level 90 has a respectable base attack of 565 and gives a 30% ER substat. As for its effect, it's quite a mouthful. It has 3 states which correspond to damage bonus applied on the character. On max refinements, it will give 12, 20, and 28% respectively. You can only switch to one state every 7 seconds when you hit an opponent. You'll know what state you're in by an icon that appears above the character when it switches. 1, 2, and 3 arrowheads corresponding to the lowest to highest buff. While it's an interesting mechanic, it runs the risk of having some characters deal inconsistent damage, particularly if they rely on reaction damage. For example, you'd rather trigger a Vaporize during the max damage bonus rather than the lowest. Controlling the state you're in requires a lot of conscious effort, so in most scenarios, you'll just rely on luck that the highest damage buffs are active during your equipped character's damage uptime. This damage bonus is also not snapshotable. As you can see here, Fischl's Oz, which snapshots, changes damage when the bow also changes state. Anyway, the nice thing is that the damage bonus is universally applicable, except in transformative reactions, which makes this a relatively universal bow. Add to the fact that it provides ER, which many current bow users can make good use of. The way I see it, it definitely feels like a free-to-play jack-of-all-trades weapon, like the Oathsworn Eye. While far from being the best on any character, it's at least a bow that can be generally used. And if you have a bow shortage wherein characters are playing tug-of-war with one bow, then the Fading Twilight might help with that. It's also up against tough competition due to the craftable bows already being solid weapons, but if you don't have any billets or have limited billets to craft with, then at least Fading Twilight is here to save the day. Now let me share my thoughts on the Fading Twilight on all bow users, and keep in mind that as a free-to-play weapon, it's more comparable on 3 stars and 4 stars than versus 5-star weapons. This was released in tandem with Yelan, so many people will be looking to equip it on her. And to be fair, it's actually decent for her. While the base attack is unutilized, at least the ER and damage bonus are both beneficial for Yelan's kit. The added ER is definitely quality of life for burst uptime, which is important to her, and on a full emblem build at least gets converted into some damage bonus. But Fading Twilight can actually be on par with 3-star options like Recurve and Slingshot. The way I see it, whether you want to give this bow or a 3-star bow to Yelan depends on how well the weapon complements your artifact stats. If your ER is already excessive, she won't have much use of the ER substat from the Fading Twilight, and might benefit more from the HP or crit that the 3 stars give instead to increase her damage. All in all, it's a solid free-to-play weapon on her and makes building her much more convenient. Not to mention, it looks very pretty. Now for everyone else. For Kujou Sara, I actually think this is great for her and maybe one of the best bow users to utilize this weapon. 565 base attack is the highest among 4-star weapons if you have no spare 5-star weapon to give her. The ER stat and damage bonus provided are also very welcome for her burst uptime and damage. This beats all other craftable bows by a mile in this case. For Yoimiya, I wouldn't really recommend it considering there are way better 4-star options like an R1 Rust or the craftable Hamayumi. On Gorou, only the ER will really be useful to him, which you can get enough of from artifact stats. But if you have a spare copy of Favonius Bow or Sacrificial Bow around, just use those as they have better utility. For Diona, it's the same case as Gorou. Even the 3-star Recurve Bow, which gives HP, is arguably better on her. On Ganyu, I guess it's decent enough for either an on-field freeze DPS build or off-field burst playstyle. but it's much less recommended if she's on a melt build since she won't be using her burst much, so the ER stat is wasted. And again, there's the Hamayumi or prototype bows, which are much better. On Childe, this is workable to mainly help him insert his burst more often in rotations, if that matters to you, and if you really don't have any other 4-star options. What about Venti? It's also an option for him, but first, if you're already using the Windbloom Ode as his free-to-play weapon, then I'd say stick to that. Then if you already have even just an R1 stringless, that's already much better than Twilight, since the added EM is valuable on him. Generally speaking, other DPS or support bows are better on Venti. Even the 3-star Raven bow can be situationally better as a free-to-play option. For Fischl, it's not bad for an off-field DPS build. The bow's buff doesn't snapshot on Oz, and it'll keep on changing state since Oz will continuously deal damage. Plus, this gives way more ER than she needs. However, Prototype Crescent should be noticeably better damage if you can hit a weak point consistently and snapshot its buff. And if you manage to even get just an R1 of Stringless or Alley Hunter, those are already better. For Aloy, it's a nice generalist weapon that can be flexible enough for either a quick swap burst or on-field DPS build. And finally, on a burst build Amber, this is also a decent choice. But for a charge attack Amber playstyle, there are much better free-to-play options. In conclusion, this is really a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none weapon, which is to be expected from a free-to-play event weapon anyway. I see this as a good thing, as it can at least fill in the gaps in your bow arsenal. I'd love to know in the comments who you're giving your Fading Twilight to, if any. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel for more Genshin Impact guides and content, and I will see you all soon. Take care!